So I go over there, and unbeknownst to me, about 10 years ago, martial arts was outlawed in Russia. And if you used it, they put you in jail. And so they trained underground.
March 19th, 2026. The unbreakable legend fell. Chuck Norris, 86 years old, the man who stared down every villain on screen, who seemed to defy time itself, was gone. A sudden, brutal pain ripped through his chest inside that quiet beachfront house. Rain hammered the roof like a warning. Gena's screams, family rushing to his side, paramedics racing through the storm, a small Kauai hospital fighting to save him and failing. The heart that carried him through 6 karate world titles, through Missing in Action, through Walker, Texas Ranger, through decades of real punches and real falls, finally stopped. He passed surrounded by his family and at peace, the official words say. But peace is a lie when the internet is screaming. Reddit threads are on fire. It wasn't old age, it was the Hollywood body count. Thousands of unpadded fight scenes, cracked ribs, bruised organs, a heart that never got to rest. 70 million fortune. 28 years with Gena, 5 children, Mike, Eric, Dina, Dakota, Dana Lee, now left holding secrets. Letters he wrote in silence. Words only they've read. The family locked everything down. No cause released, no autopsy details, no interviews. But the truth is bleeding out, and it's darker than anyone was ready for. Hit subscribe right now, because we're about to go deeper into the pain, the legacy, and the things they never wanted you to know. Let's step inside the silence, together. Chapter 1, Cause of Death and Shocking Reddit Rumors. It was the golden hour on Kauai, March 18, 2026, around 6 o'clock p.m., when Chuck Norris stepped out onto the grass behind his quiet wooden house. The very spot where, just 9 days earlier, he had filmed that final birthday video the whole world would replay in disbelief. The sun was sinking low, painting the ocean in molten gold, and he set down 2 light dumbbells, 10 pounds each, nothing taxing, just enough to keep the body awake. He started his reps, slow and deliberate, every motion carrying the same quiet precision he'd honed since Korea. Then halfway through, something broke the rhythm. His right hand trembled. Not dramatically, just a flicker, a hesitation that made the dumbbell waver in the air longer than it should. He stopped, stared at his fingers like they had suddenly become strangers. The wind carried the steady crash of waves below, but in that instant, everything else fell silent except his own breathing. He whispered, voice low and rough, almost lost in the breeze. My heart's acting strange today. The words drifted away like smoke. He shook his head sharply as if he could will the feeling back into place. Switched hands, finished the set. Looked out at the ocean, the same endless blue he grinned at when he told the camera, I don't age, I level up. Then he turned and walked back inside. The door clicked shut behind him. The sun slipped away. Night came fast. By 2 a.m. on March 19th, the storm had taken over the island. Rain hammered the roof like gunfire. Wind screamed through the palms. Inside the bedroom, Chuck woke to a pain that felt like a blade twisting in his chest. Sharp, relentless, deeper than any hit he'd ever taken on film. He tried to sit up, couldn't. His breath came in a short, desperate bursts. Gena woke in the same heartbeat. She saw the agony carved into his face and everything inside her shattered. Chuck! Oh God, Chuck! She grabbed the phone, hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Dialed 911. My husband, he's having severe chest pain. He can't breathe right. Please hurry. She knelt beside him, cradling his head, whispering through tears. Hold on, honey. Hold on. They're coming. Don't leave me. Lightning cracked the sky open. Thunder shook the walls. Sirens wailed in the distance, fighting their way through the downpour. 20 minutes later, paramedics burst in, drenched, urgent. They found him conscious but slipping, skin pale, sweat pouring, chest rising and falling too fast. They lifted him onto the stretcher. Gena never let go of his hand. Dakota and Dana Lee stood frozen in the hallway, eyes wide with terror, watching their father carried out into the black rain. The ambulance tore through flooded roads, red and blue lights slicing the storm. At the small Kauai hospital, doctors swarmed, machines screamed, IVs stabbed in. They battled to bring him back. But the heart that had carried him through 6 world karate titles, through Missing in Action, through Walker, Texas Ranger, through every real punch and every real fall, had nothing left. When dawn broke, he was gone. The family's words were quiet, almost fragile, surrounded by his family and at peace. That's all they would give the world. But the world wouldn't stay silent. Within hours, Reddit caught fire. Threads exploded across news, conspiracy, pop culture. One post rocketed to 12,000 upvotes. Chuck Norris didn't die of old age. He died from the body count. Thousands of real punches, real falls, no padding. Every roundhouse kick in Walker, every fight scene in Missing in Action. Those were real impacts. His heart was scarred long before '86. Another thread surged. He's been hiding heart issues since 2017. That's why he went quiet. That wasn't retirement. That was damage control. A 40,000 upvote posting conspiracy. The family is covering it up to protect the unbreakable myth. If the truth came out, that decades of action movies literally broke his heart, every Chuck Norris meme would collapse. They're protecting the brand. Deeper in the threads, someone dropped a bombshell. A source close to the family said Chuck left a handwritten letter for his son Mike. "If I go, don't let anyone know my heart was worn out from the real punches on set. Let them remember me strong." The letter they claimed was found by Gena after he was gone, folded inside his Bible. Never meant to be seen. The family stayed silent. No press conference, no calls released, no interviews. But the questions grew louder with every hour. Was it just age? Or was it the price of being unbreakable? The rain kept falling on Kauai. The ocean kept roaring. And somewhere in that quiet house, a letter sat hidden, waiting for the day the truth could no longer be contained. Chapter 2. Wife Gena O'Kelly. 28 years of love and the final heartbreak. People who know the Norris family say that if you really want to understand how Chuck left this world, you have to start with Gena. Because according to those closest to them, the love story between Chuck Norris and Gena O'Kelly wasn't just a Hollywood romance. It was the quiet anchor that kept him grounded for nearly 3 decades. Gena was born in 1965 in California. Before she became Mrs. Norris, she was a successful model and fitness instructor with a bright smile and an even brighter spirit. She met Chuck in 1997 at a charity event. He was already a legend, twice divorced, raising kids and carrying the weight of fame. She was 32, full of life, and completely unfazed by his celebrity status. Insiders who were there that night swear it was love at first sight. Chuck later admitted in rare interviews that Gena was the first woman who saw the man behind the roundhouse kicks. Not the action hero, not the meme, just Chuck. They married in 1998 in a private ceremony. 2 years later, at the age of 60, Chuck became a father again when Gena gave birth to twins, Dakota and Dana Lee. The couple left the spotlight and moved to Kauai, Hawaii, building a simple wooden home overlooking the ocean. Those who visited them said the house was filled with laughter, family photos, and the sound of waves. Gena became Chuck's safe place. When the world demanded more movies, more appearances, more Walker, Texas Ranger, she was the one who reminded him it was okay to rest. But the real test of their love came in 2013. Gena suffered a horrifying reaction to gadolinium contrast dye used during an MRI. The poison stayed trapped in her body, causing excruciating pain, burning sensations, and neurological damage that doctors couldn't fully fix. Chuck did something no one expected. He walked away from Hollywood completely. For 2 full years, he stayed by her side day and night, holding her when the pain became unbearable, driving her to appointments, cooking for her, and refusing to leave her alone for even a single night. People close to the family still talk about how Chuck, the man who once took on armies on screen, became the gentlest caregiver. He told friends privately, "She took care of me my whole life. Now it's my turn." That devotion never faded. Even after Gena slowly recovered, the couple stayed hidden in Kauai, living quietly away from cameras and fame. Chuck always said Gena saved him as much as he saved her. Then came the night of March 19, 2026. According to whispers from people inside the hospital that night, the final moments were devastating. When the pain hit Chuck around 2 a.m., Gena was right there. She held his hand through the entire ambulance ride, through the storm, through the emergency room chaos, and as doctors worked frantically. Gena leaned close to his ear and whispered the words that those present say still echo in the halls. "Baby, please don't go. We still have to watch our grandchildren grow up. Please stay with me." She never let go of his hand. Not once. Not even when the monitors finally went silent. Now, just days after his passing, Gena remains in that same wooden house on Kauai. Neighbors say they see her walking the beach alone at sunrise, the same beach where Chuck filmed his last video. She has refused all interviews. She has asked the family to keep everything private. Those close to her say she is protecting Chuck's image until the very end. The unbreakable warrior, the legend who never backed down. She wants the world to remember him strong, not broken. But those who know her best say the truth is far more painful. Gena O'Kelly, the woman who stood beside Chuck for 28 years through fame, through illness, through everything, is now facing the hardest role of her life, learning to live without the man who was her whole world. And according to the quiet rumors drifting through Kauai, she still sleeps with one of his old t-shirts beside her pillow. Because some nights the silence in that house is simply too loud to bear alone. Chapter 3. The 5 children. Private lives, hidden pain, and the 70 million legacy. The pain didn't end when Chuck Norris took his last breath. It passed like a shadow to the people who loved him most. The 5 children who now carry his name, his memory, and the weight of everything he left behind. Mike Norris, 63, the eldest son from Chuck's first marriage to Deanne Holchek, was the one who felt the blow deepest at first. Mike grew up in the shadow of his father's fame, watching Chuck disappear for months to film Missing in Action or Delta Force, then return home with bruises that weren't always from stunts. Mike followed his father into acting and directing, appearing in several of Chuck's films, and even directing a few low-budget action projects. They were close, but it was a complicated closeness. Mike idolized Chuck, but also carried the pressure of being Chuck Norris Jr. in a world that expected him to be unbreakable too. According to people who spoke to the family in the days after March 19, Mike was the first to arrive at the hospital after the call came. He drove through the storm from his home on the island, knuckles white on the steering wheel. When he reached the emergency room, Gena handed him a small folded piece of paper she had found tucked inside Chuck's Bible on the bedside table. It was a handwritten letter addressed only to Mike. The words, written in Chuck's careful, steady hand, were simple and devastating. "If I go, don't let anyone know my heart was worn out from the real punches on set. Let them remember me strong. Take care of your mom and the others. I love you, son." Mike read it in silence, then folded it back up and put it in his pocket. He hasn't spoken publicly since. Family friends say he spends hours every day reviewing old film reels. Chuck's fight scenes, Chuck's lines, Chuck's smile, trying to understand how the man who seemed invincible could have been suffering in silence for so long. Mike is now quietly managing the portion of the estate tied to Chuck's film rights and residuals. He hasn't confirmed or denied the letter's existence. He doesn't have to. The silence says enough. Eric Norris, 60, the second son, has always been the quiet one. He never chased the spotlight. While Mike leaned into acting, Eric built a life in business. Real estate, small investments, nothing flashy. He lives in Texas with his wife and 4 children, far from Hollywood and far from the media glare that followed his father. Eric was the one who drove Gena to the hospital that night. According to someone who was there, he arrived soaked from the rain, walked straight past the nurses without a word, and took his place beside his stepmother. He held Gena while she cried. When the doctor came out and delivered the news, Eric didn't speak. He just nodded once, slowly, then turned to look out the window at the storm that was finally beginning to ease. Eric rarely posts on social media. His only public statement was a single line on Instagram the day after. "Dad was the strongest man I ever knew. Rest easy." Friends say he has spent the last few days with his own children, telling them stories about Grandpa Chuck. Not the movie star, but the man who taught them how to fish, how to fix a bike, how to stand up straight when life hits hard. Eric is believed to have inherited a significant portion of the real estate holdings in the $70 million estate. He has made no comment on rumors of disputes among the siblings. He doesn't need to. His life has always been private, and he intends to keep it that way. Gena Norris, 61, Chuck's only daughter from a relationship before his first marriage, has lived her life almost entirely out of the public eye. She rarely appears in photos, rarely speaks to the press. When the family released their first statement on Instagram, it was Gena who wrote it. Short, dignified, and heartbreaking. "Our father was a man of strength, faith, and love. He is at peace now." Gena was not at the hospital that night. She lives on the mainland and couldn't make it in time. People close to the family say she hasn't stopped crying since she heard the news. She has always been the quiet observer in the Norris family, watching her father from a distance, proud of him, but never seeking the limelight he carried so effortlessly. She is believed to have received a portion of the estate dedicated to charitable causes Chuck supported quietly during his life, programs for underprivileged children and veterans. Gena has not commented on the Reddit rumors or the alleged letter. Her silence is her answer. Then there are the twins, Dakota and Danny Lee, both 24, born August 30th, 2001, to Chuck and Gena. They are the youngest, the ones who grew up knowing a different Chuck Norris, the one who made pancakes on weekends, who taught them to surf on Kauai beaches, who sat with them on the lanai telling stories about his Air Force days in Korea. Dakota, the son, has followed his father's path in martial arts. He trains privately, teaches a small group of students, stays away from show business. According to family friends, Dakota was the last person to speak to Chuck before the pain hit. In the early hours of March 19, while the storm was building, Chuck called him on video. The conversation was short. Chuck looked tired, but his voice was steady. He said, "You and your sister have to keep this quiet if something happens to me. Don't let the fans know how much this old man has been hurting. Let them remember me strong." Dakota nodded. Chuck smiled one last time and ended the call. Dakota hasn't spoken about it since. He is now helping manage a fund from the estate, money set aside for martial arts programs for kids who can't afford classes. He trains every morning on the same beach his father used, alone. Danny Lee, his twin sister, is the more public of the two. She models occasionally, posts lifestyle content on Instagram, but nothing extravagant. She was the one who wrote the longest family tribute after Chuck passed. "Dad was our protector, our teacher, our biggest cheerleader. He taught us that strength isn't about fighting. It's about standing up for what's right, loving fiercely, and never giving up on the people you care about. He was the best father any kid could ask for. We love you forever, Dad." She posted it with a photo of the three of them on the beach, Chuck in the middle, arms around both twins, all of them laughing. The comments flooded in, hundreds of thousands. Danny Lee read every one. She still does. Right now, both twins are staying with Gena in Kauai. They walk the beach together at sunrise. They sit on the lanai where Chuck used to tell stories. They hold each other when the grief becomes too heavy. The $70 million estate is being handled privately. No auctions, no tell-all books, no public disputes, at least not yet. Reddit whispers of tension between the children from Chuck's first marriage and the twins, but no one in the family has confirmed it. The money is secondary. The real inheritance is the silence they all share. The promise to remember Chuck the way he wanted to be remembered. Strong, humble, unbreakable. But in the quiet moments, When the house is still and the ocean is the only sound, they each carry something heavier than money. A letter, a promise, a last conversation, and the knowledge that the man the world called invincible was, in the end, just their dad, hurting, tired, and still trying to protect them even as he slipped away. The world may never know the full truth, but the 5 children do, and that truth is the heaviest legacy of all. Chapter 4. Net worth, $70 million in the dark rumors about the inheritance. The wooden house on Kauai still stands exactly as Chuck left it, perched on a low bluff overlooking the Pacific, half hidden behind a thick curtain of plumeria trees and hibiscus. It is not a mansion. There are no marble floors, no infinity pool, no gates with security cameras. Just weathered cedar siding, a wide lanai with a simple swing where Chuck used to sit at dusk, and a gravel path leading down to the private stretch of beach where he trained every morning. The windows are always open to let the salt breeze move through, carrying the scent of the ocean inside. On the walls hang family photos. Chuck with Gena on their wedding day, Chuck holding the twins as infants, Chuck teaching Dakota how to throw a proper punch. There is no Hollywood memorabilia in sight, no framed posters of Walker Texas Ranger, no trophies from karate championships. Chuck kept those things locked away in a small storage room at the back of the house, as if he didn't want the legend to crowd out the life he built here. Inside, the rooms feel smaller now. The living room couch still bears the faint indentation where Chuck used to sit. The kitchen table has 5 mismatched chairs, each one claimed by one of the children when they visit. Gena has not moved anything since that night. The Bible on the nightstand remains open to the page Chuck was reading before the pain came. A single envelope, folded and worn, sits tucked between the pages. No one has opened it since Gena found it the morning after he passed. The estate is valued at approximately $70 million. That number floats through headlines and Reddit threads like a ghost. Impressive, almost obscene when compared to the simplicity of the house where Chuck chose to spend his final years. The money came from decades of work, residuals from Walker, Texas Ranger, royalties from the Missing in Action series, book advances, speaking fees, smart real estate investments in Texas and California, and a handful of endorsements he quietly approved. He never flaunted it. He never needed to. According to people familiar with the family's private discussions, the bulk of the estate was left to Gena, his wife of 28 years, the woman who stood by him when gadolinium poisoning nearly took her life, the woman who held his hand in the hospital until the very end. The rest is divided among the 5 children, Mike, Eric, Dina, Dakota, and Danny Lee. No public will has been filed. No probate hearings have been scheduled. Everything is being handled quietly, away from prying eyes. But Reddit refuses to let it stay quiet. Threads on conspiracy and true crime discussion have swelled to thousands of comments. One post with 18,000 upvotes reads, "There's no way the kids from the first marriage are okay with the twins getting the lion's share. Walker Texas Ranger syndication rights alone are worth millions every year. Bet there's a silent war brewing over who controls the residuals." Another thread claims, "Mike and Eric are furious. They grew up with Chuck when he was still grinding, while the twins got the easy Kauai life. The $70 million isn't just money, it's control over the Chuck Norris brand. Someone's going to break ranks soon." A 32,000 upvote post in Pop Culture Gossip. Gena is holding everything tight. She doesn't want the twins dragged into court. But the older kids? They're not happy. Word is, Mike already hired a lawyer to review the trust documents. This is about to explode. None of it has been confirmed. The family has not responded. No lawsuits have been filed. No public arguments have surfaced. But the silence only feeds the rumors. And then there is the letter. According to whispers from someone who claims to have spoken to a family friend, Chuck left one final handwritten note, not just for Mike, but for all of them. It was found by Gena the day after the funeral, slipped inside the family Bible on the coffee table. The envelope was unmarked, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Chuck's careful, even script. Inside were just a few lines. The 70 million doesn't matter. Money comes and goes. What matters is that you live the way I try to teach you. Humble, honest, and full of love. Take care of your mother, take care of each other, and don't let the world turn me into something I wasn't. I love you all, Dad. Gena has not shown the letter to anyone outside the immediate family. She keeps it close, folded in her purse, or sometimes tucked under her pillow. Those who have heard about it say she reads it every night before sleep. The house remains unchanged. The swing on the lanai still creaks in the breeze. The photos still hang on the walls. The Bible still sits open. But the money, $70 million, casts a long shadow. Reddit keeps asking, who will control the residuals? Who will decide what happens to the Chuck Norris brand? Will the older children challenge the twins? Will Gena have to fight to keep her husband's legacy from being sold off piece by piece? No one knows. The family has not spoken. But in that quiet house on Kauai, 5 children and 1 grieving widow carry the answers. And somewhere inside those walls, a single letter waits, reminding them that 70 million is nothing compared to the love Chuck asked them to protect. The world may never hear the full story, but the house remembers, and the ocean keeps whispering. Chapter 5, Aftermath and Echoes. The funeral was small, almost invisible. No announcements, no press release, no black SUVs lined up along the road. Just a quiet gathering on Kauai in the days after March 19, 2026, immediate family only, plus a handful of lifelong friends who had known Chuck before the world did. They met at sunrise on the private beach below the house, the same stretch of sand where he had shadowboxed for his last birthday video. Gena walked barefoot in the surf, flanked by Dakota and Dana Lee on either side. Mike, Eric, and Dina followed a few steps behind, heads bowed. No speeches, no music. Just the sound of waves and soft crying carried on the wind. Someone placed a single white orchid on the sand where Chuck used to train. The tide came in and took it away. That was all. Gena still lives in the house. She hasn't changed a thing. The swing on the lanai still creaks in the breeze. The Bible sits open on the coffee table. Every morning she walks the beach alone, past the spot where he filmed that final clip. People who see her from a distance say she stops there sometimes, stares at the ocean, and whispers something no one can hear. The twins stay with her. Dakota training in silence, Danny Lee posting quiet tributes on Instagram, both of them sleeping in their old rooms, unwilling to leave their mother alone in the silence that has taken over the house. Across the mainland, martial arts schools have turned into memorials. Dojos in Texas, California, Florida. Students line up at dawn, perform katas in perfect unison, then bow to an empty space where Chuck's photo hangs. Instructors tell the kids the same thing Chuck used to say: strength isn't in the kick, it's in the heart behind it. Some schools play Walker, Texas Ranger episodes on loop during class. Others light candles. All of them feel the same quiet hole he left behind. The memes keep spreading. Chuck Norris doesn't die, he just levels up one last time. They flood Reddit, X, TikTok, half joke, half prayer. But beneath the humor is something heavier. People know the truth is darker than the punchlines. And then there is the journal. Gena found it 2 days after the funeral, tucked in the bottom drawer of Chuck's nightstand. Small, leather-bound, pages filled in his careful handwriting. She hasn't shown it to anyone. According to someone she confided in, the final entry was dated March 17, 2026, 2 days before the storm. It read, "I've lived a life without fear, fought every battle put in front of me, never backed down, never quit. But the heart is tired now. It's carried me this far. I just hope it lets me hold on long enough to see my grandkids laugh one more time. If it stops, tell them I went strong. Tell Gena I love her. Tell the kids to keep the faith. I've got no regrets, just peace." Gena read it alone on the lanai at sunrise. She closed the journal, pressed it to her chest, and cried until the sun was high. She hasn't opened it since. She keeps it beside her pillow. Some nights when the house is too quiet, she holds it like it's the last piece of him she can still touch. The $70 million estate remains untouched publicly. No announcements, no sales. The family has asked for privacy and for donations to martial arts programs for underprivileged kids and veterans. Causes Chuck supported without ever taking credit. Reddit still buzzes with speculation, but no one in Kauai answers. The world keeps turning, memes keep spreading, schools keep bowing. But in that small wooden house on the bluff, time has stopped. Gena walks the beach every morning. The twins follow sometimes. They don't speak much. They just walk where he walked. Look where he looked. Feel the same sand under their feet. And somewhere in the quiet, the ocean keeps whispering his name. Outro. Chuck Norris left us on March 19, 2026. He left behind $70 million, 5 children, a wife who loved him for 28 years, and millions of broken hearts around the world. The official cause stays locked away. The Reddit rumors keep screaming. The tributes from Stallone, Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, and the rest keep pouring in. But maybe the real truth isn't in the medical report. Maybe it's in the journal Gena still holds at night. Maybe it's in the way the twins walked the beach where he trained. Maybe it's in the silence of a family that refuses to let the world turn their father into a headline. What do you think really happened? What do you think he meant in that last letter? Comment below. Share your memories, like if this hits you hard. Share if you want the world to remember him right. Subscribe if you want more stories that go beneath the surface. Because legends like Chuck deserve the truth, even when it hurts.